video, I'll be giving a few announcements and explaining what content we'll be covering in week 6 of the course. Now onto the content for this week. This week we'll be covering Microsoft Access and how to turn an ERD into a real database. There's a short reading from your text, Knowledge Extension 7, which briefly introduces Microsoft Access and forms. Note, however, that it also does go into reports and queries, but we won't be covering those until a future week. But go ahead and read them now if you'd like. So we're starting this week by reading Knowledge Extension 7. After reading Knowledge Extension 7, the next step is following along with the Going from an ERD to a Database tutorial. The links to all these videos are going to be on OWL as always, and I recommend having Access open while you watch this tutorial, and following along with each step and replicating it on your own computer. This will teach you both how to translate an ERD into a real database, as well as how to use Microsoft Access. After that, you have a choice. I have a second optional Microsoft Access tutorial you can follow along with that shows a different example. This optional tutorial also shows you how to use Access in window mode, which is not something you'll be tested on, but it might make your life easier for the assignments. So I highly recommend watching this if you're struggling with the first tutorial, and seeing everything again, how we do it, but with a new example, might make things a little bit more clearer. So if you want more experience with Access, you can watch that tutorial, but it is optional. There won't be any new content in there that you'd be tested on. Regardless of if you watch the optional tutorial, the next step is to watch the Access Forms tutorial, and this is an important one. This will teach you how to create a simple database application, a graphical user interface for editing and entering data called a form. Don't worry if that sounds intimidating. Microsoft Access allows us to do this without any programming knowledge, and it's mostly just point and click. The last step is going to be trying out that MyLab homework. And once again, that MyLab homework is optional, but highly recommended. And all the questions I recommend are listed on OWL, and this will give us more experience with Microsoft Access. Once you've tried that, and you have any questions about the content this week, I do encourage you to post on the forums, as always. And that brings us to our participation activity for the week. This one might sound a bit intimidating, but it's actually quite fun and starts getting into the art side of software design. But before you start, make sure you watch the Access Forms video before doing this one, as it will make things much more clear. So what we'll be doing is creating a wireframe or mock-up of a form application for the employee entity that you can see for this very simple ERD on the screen right now. This ERD simply shows a database that stores some information about employees, as well as departments in a business. The idea here is that employees are assigned to a department, and there is one employee that runs the department. This would be the department head. So what we're trying to do here isn't try to create a database. We're not trying to create an actual Microsoft Access form. Rather, we're just trying to draw a drawing or sort of like a rough draft or plan of what our Microsoft Access form would be for employees to actually enter data into the database about other employees. This might be something that HR would use. So what is a wireframe? I've mentioned that a few times now. It's a drawing of the user interface of a software application, website, or mobile application. The idea is that before you start crafting your application, you plan out where you want each component, input, button, and so on, so you have an idea of what your application will look like before you get started. This helps you evaluate and plan your user interface before you even start coding it. Sometimes this is called a paper prototype. So what do we want to do here? Well, we have an employee table. We can see that there's a few fields here. There's a first name, SIN, phone number, email, date hired, salary, department ID, and a department assignment date. There's also 2 extra spots for you to put in fields that are related to your company from assignment 1. So what I want you to do is create a wireframe for a form or an application that would allow HR to input all this information about an employee. So we're really just focusing in here on this one employee table, how we're going to write our employees input data for this. So this wireframe should include inputs for every attribute that the employee entity has here, and it should be customized for your business. By customize, I mean that you might want to put your own logo there, set it up in a way that makes sense for your business, as well as add 2 extra attributes about your employees that make sense for your business. You should also include buttons to navigate through the table of employees, a button to save changes, and a button to add a new employee. In addition to the existing attributes in the employee entity, you should add at least 2 more attributes. what makes sense for your business. One must use a drop-down combo box, and the other a checkbox or a radio button. Remember, this should just be a wireframe. I don't actually expect you to make a real working Access form here. You can draw this on paper and take a picture, scan it, something like that. However you want to make this, even in MS Paint is fine. So you can submit this as a screenshot, a scan, or a picture of your wireframe to the Week 6 employee form wireframe topic on the OWL forms. The only thing you can't do is actually make it in Microsoft Access. I want you to take time and think this out, rather than trying to just run off and make it in Microsoft Access. So again, this should be on paper. Now, I realize that sounds a little bit intimidating. I went through it a bit fast, and you may have not watched that video on Access forms yet. So let's look at an example. Here we have that ERD we saw before with employee and department. The key here is the employee entity. This is what we want to make a form for. This is what we're making an application to allow HR to input data for. Note that there's two attributes at the bottom here. This is for something that you're going to add. These could be any attributes you want. They're going to be related to your business. So they don't have to be the same as what I'm going to show in this example. Our goal is to create something that looks like this, a drawing of what the form might look like. Once again, I want to make it crystal clear that you don't have to make this application, just a drawing of it for now. It should include inputs for each attribute and show some example data. Here we can see I have inputs for first name, last name, SIN, phone number, and so on, with some example data shown in them. Every attribute from your employee entity should have an input of some kind in your drawing. If it didn't have an input, your HR employees wouldn't actually be able to input that data. So if it has an attribute in the entity, it should have a field or input of some kind in your form. We also have two extra attributes added for this activity. Remember that one needs to be shown as a combo box, and one as either a checkbox or a radio button. In this example, I have the employee's degree and certificate they have. Your extra attributes should be something else you want to track about your employees, and it should make sense for your business. They don't have to be these. You can also add more features to this form, even if you don't know how to implement them in Access. For example, we have a search input here to look for employees, and these checkboxes, which we might not know how to deal with yet. But that's completely fine, as this is just a drawing right now, and we just want to show what our ideal form would look like, not necessarily one that we know how to create yet. Also note that I customized this form here with the text Forest City Ducks, as well as a placeholder for an image. Again, this should be for your business that you made in assignment 1, so it won't be Forest City Ducks. It should be customized with your business name and some image, clip art, logo, something like that. It doesn't have to have too much thought put into it. That's related to your business. It's fine if you just find this on Google or something like that. So once we have this finished, either drawn on paper and taken a photo of or scanned, or drawn in another program, any way you want to do it is fine. All we need to submit is this drawing. You'd attach that to your form post to OWL. And yours should not have fields in the same location or order as mine. I just quickly threw this together as an example. You should take some time and think about what the best layout would be when entering data and what makes sense for your company. As with the other participation activities, this is not marked on correctness, but the effort you put into it. So have some fun with it and don't worry about how you would make this an Access at this point. Rather, think about what would be the most usable layout and aesthetically pleasing. That's all I have for you in this video. Make sure to get started on reading Knowledge Extension 7 and watching those tutorial videos. Thank you for watching and have a great day.